The silver ship hung in Earth's orbit like a polished knife. It was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Captain James Walker stood at the window of the small transport vessel, watching as they approached the alien craft. His heartbeat quickened, but his face remained calm. 20 years in special forces had taught him to hide his feelings well. 2 minutes to docking, Captain, said the pilot. Walker nodded. He straightened his formal blue uniform and checked his reflection in the glass. A tall man with short brown hair and eyes that had seen too much looked back at him. At 45, he was not young anymore, but his body was still strong and quick. "Remembered," said General Moore through the comm system. "You represent all of Earth today. The future of our planet depends on these talks." "I understand, sir," Walker replied. The small human ship connected to the alien vessel with a soft thud. Walker took a deep breath and stepped into the airlock. The door opened to reveal 3 aliens waiting for him. They were tall and thin with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer. Their 4 eyes blinked at different times, and when they moved, it was with a strange grace. The one in front stepped forward. "I am High Commander Draz of the Galactic Hegemony. Welcome aboard." Walker was surprised to hear perfect English. "Thank you for having me. I am Captain James Walker, representative of Earth." The aliens led him through wide hallways filled with strange technology. Walker noticed everything: the number of guards, the layout of the ship, the weapons. Old habits died hard. They entered a large room with a round table. There were 6 other aliens there, each looking different from Draz's kind. Walker realized he was meeting representatives from all 7 species of the hegemony. "Please, sit," said Draz, pointing to a chair that seemed made for a human body. The meeting began well. The aliens offered technology beyond human imagination. Cures for diseases, clean energy, faster than light travel. In exchange, they asked only for some of Earth's resources and the right to build bases on the planet. "This seems very generous," Walker said carefully. "We believe in helping younger species," replied Draz. "It benefits the whole galaxy." Walker nodded, but something felt wrong. The deal was too good. His instincts, the same ones that had kept him alive through countless battles, were screaming at him. "I would like to discuss the details of these bases," he said. "How many do you require, and where would they be built?" The aliens exchanged quick glances. "That can be decided later," said one with green scales. "First, let us finish our agreement." Walker smiled politely. "I'm afraid Earth's government will need those details before we move forward." There was an uncomfortable silence. Then Draz stood up. "Very well. Let me show you something that might help you understand our needs better." Walker followed Draz to another room, leaving the other aliens behind. This room was smaller, with a large screen on one wall. Draz pressed a button, and the screen came to life, showing images of Earth. "Your planet is quite beautiful," said Draz. "Yes, it is," agreed Walker. "It would be a shame if something happened to it." Walker's muscles tensed, but he kept his face neutral. "What do you mean?" Draz's 4 eyes fixed on him. "The hegemony is not asking for permission, Captain Walker. We are simply being polite. Your species is young and weak. We will take what we need from Earth. Your people can either cooperate and survive as our servants, or resist and be eliminated." Walker's mind raced. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting. It was the prelude to an invasion. "I see," he said calmly. "And when does this takeover begin?" "It already has," replied Draz. "While we have been talking, our ships have been moving into position around your planet. In 3 days, we will begin landing our forces." Walker thought of Earth, of its cities and forests, of the billions of people going about their lives, unaware of what was coming. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Because you will not be returning to warn them," said Draz simply. Walker acted instantly. His right hand grabbed a metal object from the table, something that looked like a pen, and he drove it into the side of Draz's neck. The alien fell with a strange gurgling sound. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Walker ran from the room, his mind focused on one goal: get back to the transport and warn Earth. Guards appeared in the hallway. Walker ducked behind a column as they fired strange weapons that left smoking holes in the walls. When they paused to advance, he sprinted down a side passage, heading for the docking bay. More guards blocked his path. Walker grabbed a pipe from an exposed wall panel and fought his way through them, his special forces training making his movements quick and deadly. Finally, he reached the docking bay. His transport was still there, but aliens surrounded it. There was no way to reach it directly. Walker spotted a small door labeled in alien symbols. Taking a chance, he pushed through it and found himself in a cargo area. There, among various containers, was something he recognized: an experimental Earth stealth pod. It had been part of a military exchange earlier that day. He climbed inside the pod and activated its systems. The small craft hummed to life. It wasn't designed for long-distance travel, but it would have to do. Just as Walker launched the pod from a small emergency airlock, he saw his transport ship explode in a ball of fire. The aliens thought they had killed him. The pod shot away from the alien vessel, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible. Walker set course for Earth, but a warning light flashed on the control panel. The pod had been damaged during the escape and was losing power. It wouldn't make it to Earth. Walker checked the nav system. There was a planet within range. Storm 6, a mining outpost with a small hegemony presence. It wasn't ideal, but it was his only option. As the pod streaked toward the distant planet, Walker checked its cargo compartment and found something unexpected: a prototype combat suit labeled Thunder Shadow. A note attached to it explained that it was designed to use electrical energy as camouflage. Walker smiled grimly. The aliens thought he was dead. That gave him an advantage, and now he had a way to fight back. The pod entered Storm 6 of atmosphere as lightning flashed across the planet's stormy skies. Walker strapped himself in for a rough landing. The hegemony had made a big mistake. They had threatened his home, and they had failed to kill him. Now they would learn why humans were dangerous, why this human, in particular, would become the ghost that haunted their nightmares. Walker woke to the sound of thunder. His head hurt, and his mouth felt dry. The escape pod had crashed into a deep ravine on Storm 6, half buried in mud. Rain pounded against the cracked viewport. He checked himself for injuries. A few cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. The pod systems were dead, but the emergency supplies were intact. Most importantly, the Thunder Shadow suit was undamaged. Walker pulled the suit from its case. It was black and sleek, fitting close to the body like a second skin. The material felt strange, both solid and somehow fluid. According to the brief manual, it was designed to absorb and channel electrical energy. "Never thought I'd be testing experimental tech on an alien planet," Walker muttered to himself as he put it on. The suit powered up immediately, responding to his body heat. Information appeared on the inside of the visor: oxygen levels, power reserves, and a map of the immediate area. The suit was already drawing energy from the electrical storm raging outside. Walker gathered what supplies he could carry and stepped out of the pod. The wind nearly knocked him off his feet. Rain lashed at him, and lightning struck a nearby rock formation. Instead of feeling threatened, Walker was surprised to find the suit humming pleasantly, absorbing the electrical energy. He climbed out of the ravine and looked around. Storm 6 was a harsh world of jagged rocks and deep canyons. In the distance, through the sheets of rain, he could see lights, a settlement or base. The suit's scanner identified it as Outpost 17, a small hegemony mining operation. "First things first," Walker said to himself. "Need to know what I'm up against." He moved toward the outpost, discovering that the suit allowed him to move faster and jump higher than normal. As a particularly bright lightning bolt struck nearby, the suit's display flashed with a message: "Camouflage mode available." Walker activated it, and the suit seemed to bend light around him. Looking down, he could barely see his own body, which appeared transparent and distorted, like heat waves rising from hot ground. "Not bad," he said, impressed. The outpost was surrounded by a high fence with guard towers. Walker watched from a ridge as aliens moved about inside, mostly Draz's species, with a few of the others he'd seen on the ship. They were mining some kind of glowing blue crystal from the ground. He spotted something that made his blood boil. Humans working in the mine, wearing prisoner uniforms. The hegemony had already started taking people from Earth. Walker's military training kicked in. He needed intelligence, weapons, and a way to communicate with Earth. And he needed to help those prisoners. He waited until night, though on Storm 6, night just meant darker storm clouds. Under cover of a particularly violent lightning storm, Walker approached the fence. Guards huddled in their towers, trying to stay dry and watching the storm nervously. Every time lightning struck, Walker's suit absorbed the energy, and his camouflage became almost perfect. Between flashes, he was slightly visible, a shimmer in the air, like a ghost. He found a maintenance door in the fence. The lock was electronic, but his suit's systems easily hacked it. Inside the compound, Walker moved from shadow to shadow, avoiding the patrol routes he'd memorized earlier. The command center was a large building in the middle of the outpost. Walker slipped inside behind a guard bringing food to the night shift. Inside, he found exactly what he needed: a computer terminal. His suit translated the alien language as he browsed through files. The news wasn't good. The hegemony was indeed planning to invade Earth in 3 days. They had already captured several human ships and taken their crews prisoner to work in mines like this one. Walker downloaded the base schematics and guard schedules to his suit. Then he found something useful: the location of the armory. The armory was small but well stocked. Walker helped himself to several alien weapons and explosives. He was examining a strange pistol when he heard voices approaching. 2 guards entered, chatting in their language. They stopped dead when they saw the weapons floating in midair. Before they could sound an alarm, Walker stunned them both. "Sorry about that," he said, even though they couldn't hear him. An idea formed in Walker's mind. These aliens had threatened his planet. They had taken his people prisoner. It was time to show them that humans weren't easy prey. Walker planted explosives around the outpost, at the power generators, the communications array, and the vehicle bay. He set them all to detonate at once, but kept one area safe: the prisoner barracks. When everything was ready, he went to the prisoner area. 20 humans looked up in shock as the door opened seemingly by itself. "Who's there?" asked a woman with short gray hair. Walker turned off his camouflage, appearing suddenly before them. Many gasped. "Captain James Walker, Earth Special Forces. I'm here to get you out." "But how?" began one man. "No time to explain. In 2 minutes, this place is going to get very loud and very chaotic. When it does, head for the east gate. It'll be open." Walker reactivated his camouflage and disappeared from their sight. He moved to the command center and set up his final surprise: a message to play on all screens throughout the base. At exactly midnight, the explosions began. The outpost plunged into darkness, except for the emergency lights. Alarms wailed. In the chaos, guards ran in all directions, trying to figure out what was happening. On every screen in the base, Walker's message played: a simple image of a human skull with the words, "You threatened Earth. Now Earth fights back." The prisoners ran for the east gate as instructed. Walker had disabled the locks and taken out the guards. They escaped into the storm, where Walker had left supplies and directions to a cave he found. As the aliens tried to restore order, strange things began to happen. Guards disappeared. Equipment failed. And sometimes, in flashes of lightning, they caught glimpses of a human figure that vanished as quickly as it appeared. By morning, the aliens were terrified. Something was hunting them. Something they couldn't see or catch. When the outpost commander called the main hegemony fleet for help, his message was simple and frightening. "The human escaped the ship. He's here, on Storm 6. He moves like a ghost through the lightning. We cannot stop him. In the cave several miles away, Walker listened to this message through his suit's hacked connection to the outpost communications. The escaped prisoners watched him with a mixture of fear and hope. "What happens now?" asked the gray-haired woman. Walker looked at the storm outside the cave entrance. Lightning flashed, and his suit hummed with power. "Now," he said, "we become their worst nightmare." News of the attack on Outpost 17 spread quickly through the hegemony fleet. High Commander Draz, who had survived Walker's attack with a nasty scar on his neck, called an emergency meeting of the 7 species leaders. "One human," hissed Draz, slamming his fist on the table. "One human has destroyed an entire outpost and freed our prisoners. Perhaps we should delay the Earth invasion," suggested a reptilian commander. "Assess this threat more carefully." "No," Draz's 4 eyes narrowed. "We will not be frightened by a single human. I am sending our best warrior to Storm 6. Commander Krell will find this ghost and destroy him." On the bridge of the largest hegemony warship, Commander Krell watched recordings from Outpost 17. Krell was massive, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with gray skin covered in bony plates. His species was bred for war, and Krell had never lost a battle. He studied the footage carefully. The brief flashes of a human shape in the lightning, the floating weapons, the fear in the guards' eyes as they fired at empty air. "Interesting," Krell rumbled. "This human uses our fear against us." He turned to his lieutenants. "Prepare my ship. I will hunt this ghost myself." Meanwhile, on Storm 6, Walker and the freed prisoners had created a small base in a network of caves. The storms outside had grown more intense, which suited Walker perfectly. His suit absorbed more power with each lightning strike. Among the prisoners was Dr. Eliza Reed, the gray-haired woman who had first spoken to Walker. She had been the lead scientist on a deep space mission when the hegemony captured her ship. "The suit is remarkable," she said, examining Walker's Thunder Shadow technology. "It's converting electrical energy into both power and camouflage." "Can you improve it?" asked Walker. Reed smiled. "Give me time and resources, and I can make it even better. But we need parts." Walker nodded. "Then we'll get them." Over the next few days, Walker staged hit-and-run attacks on hegemony outposts across Storm 6. He never stayed in one place long enough to be caught. The aliens called in more troops, but that just gave Walker more targets. He always left the same message: Earth fights back. The aliens began to whisper stories about the ghost who could not be killed. Some said he could walk through walls. Others claimed he could control the lightning itself. Fear spread through the hegemony ranks. Walker was checking the stolen equipment he brought back to the cave when Reed approached him with a worried look. "I've been monitoring their communications," she said. "They're bringing in someone called Commander Krell to hunt you down. And worse, they've moved up their invasion timeline. Earth has less than 2 days now." Walker's face hardened. "We need to warn Earth." "How?" "We've tried using their communication systems, but the hegemony blocks all outgoing messages. There's a central communications array on the other side of the planet," Walker said, pointing to a map he'd stolen. "It's powerful enough to send a message directly to Earth, bypassing the hegemony blockade. But it's heavily guarded." "It's too dangerous," said Reed. "Even with your suit." "We don't have a choice," Walker cut her off. "If Earth doesn't know what's coming, billions will die." That night, the biggest storm ever recorded on Storm 6 began. Black clouds turned day into night. Lightning struck continuously, like a natural war zone. Walker stood at the cave entrance, watching the storm. "Perfect," he said. He put on the Thunder Shadow suit, now modified by Reed to store even more electrical energy. With each lightning strike, the suit glowed briefly before adjusting its camouflage. "I'll be back with help," Walker told the prisoners. "Stay hidden." He moved through the storm like a ghost, covering ground quickly. The suit's power levels were higher than ever, making him nearly invisible even between lightning strikes. The communications array was a massive dish surrounded by a large hegemony base. Guards were doubled, and Walker spotted new security measures, heat sensors, and motion detectors. They were learning. As he studied the base from a ridge, Walker noticed a large ship landing. From it emerged a massive alien unlike any he'd seen before. Even from a distance, Walker could tell this was a warrior. "Commander Krell, I presume," Walker muttered. Krell addressed the gathered troops, his voice carrying even over the storm. "This human is no ghost. He is flesh and blood, and he can be killed. Find him." Walker waited until the storm reached its peak before making his move. Lightning struck so frequently that the suit was constantly at full power. He slipped past the outer defenses, using the driving rain as additional cover. Inside the base, Walker moved carefully. Unlike previous raids, this wasn't about creating fear. He needed to access the communications array without being detected. He was halfway to the control room when alarms blared. A voice echoed through the base. "The ghost is here. Section 3. Walker cursed. They had new sensors that could detect him. He abandoned stealth and ran for the control room, stunning guards as he went. He burst into the control room, surprising the technicians inside. Before they could react, he had knocked them unconscious and locked the door. Walker worked quickly, using the knowledge Reed had given him to bypass the hegemony systems. He prepared a message for Earth with everything he knew about the invasion plans. Just as he was about to send it, the door exploded inward. Commander Krell stood in the doorway, holding a massive energy weapon. "So," Krell said, "you are the ghost that has my soldiers trembling." Walker activated the suit's maximum camouflage, but Krell fired at him anyway. The blast caught Walker in the shoulder, sending him crashing into the wall. "My species can see heat signatures," Krell explained, advancing slowly. "Your trick won't work on me." Walker tried to stand, but his injured shoulder made it difficult. Krell aimed his weapon for a killing shot. Suddenly, the room went dark as lightning struck the building directly. Power surged through the systems, and Walker's suit absorbed the massive energy spike. For a moment, he glowed like a star. When Krell could see again, Walker was gone. "Impossible," roared Krell. Walker had used the power surge to enhance his camouflage beyond normal levels and slipped past Krell. He raced through the base, heading for the communications dish itself. With guards searching everywhere, Walker climbed the massive dish. At its center, he connected his suit directly to the transmitter. "This is Captain James Walker to Earth Defense Command," he began, transmitting the message through the suit. "The hegemony plans to invade in less than 48 hours. Their fleet is." A blast of energy struck near him. Krell had followed him to the dish. "No more running, Ghost," Krell shouted over the storm. Walker looked at his suit's display. The message was only half sent. He needed more time. Lightning flashed overhead. Walker smiled grimly and stood up, facing Krell. "Who's running?" he called back. As thunder crashed around them, the human ghost and the alien hunter faced each other on the communications dish, while the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Lightning crashed around Walker and Krell as they faced each other on top of the massive communications dish. Rain lashed at them, and the wind howled like a living thing. "You have caused much trouble, human," Krell said, his massive weapon aimed at Walker's chest. "But it ends now." Walker glanced at his suit's display. The message to Earth was still sending. 65% complete. He needed to keep Krell talking. "Why invade Earth?" Walker asked. "There are peaceful planets all over the galaxy." Krell laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Your world is rich in resources we need. And humans, you are strong workers. We're more than that," Walker said. "We're survivors." He lunged suddenly, diving to the side as Krell fired. The energy blast missed him by inches, striking the dish instead. Walker rolled and came up running, zigzagging across the curved surface. Krell fired again and again, but Walker was too fast, using the storm and his suit to stay just ahead of the blasts. The message continued to upload. 75%, 80%. Meanwhile, inside the base, Dr. Reed had followed Walker. She had convinced the other prisoners to help create a distraction. Alarms were blaring everywhere as escaped humans ran through the complex, confusing the guards. Reed made her way to the control room, stepping over the unconscious technicians. She accessed the base's systems and found something that made her heart stop. Plans for a weapon called the storm generator. It was designed to create artificial electrical storms like those on Storm 6, but far more powerful. According to the plans, it could disable all electronics on a planet. "That's how they plan to invade Earth," she whispered. "They'll knock out our defenses with an artificial storm." Back on the dish, Walker was running out of options. Krell had cornered him near the edge. Below was a 100-foot drop to the rocky ground. "Nowhere left to run, Ghost," Krell said, advancing slowly. Walker checked his display. 95% complete. Just a little longer. "You know," Walker said, "there's something you should understand about humans." "And what is that?" asked Krell, raising his weapon. "We're very good at making friends." At that moment, the dish rocked violently. Explosions erupted around the base as the freed prisoners put Reed's plan into action. They had planted the explosives Walker had collected during his raids. Krell staggered, momentarily distracted. Walker seized his chance. He charged forward and tackled the much larger alien. They both went down hard on the wet metal surface. Krell was stronger, but Walker was quicker. They fought in the rain and lightning, trading blows. Walker's suit absorbed some of the damage, but Krell landed several powerful hits that sent pain shooting through his body. Walker's display flashed. 100%. The message was sent. Earth knew what was coming. With renewed determination, Walker broke free from Krell's grasp. He stood tall, lightning flashing behind him. "It's over, Krell. Earth has been warned." Krell roared in anger and lunged at Walker. But at that exact moment, lightning struck the dish directly. The metal conducted the electricity, and while Walker's suit protected him, Krell was not so lucky. The alien commander collapsed, stunned but not dead. Walker didn't stay to finish the fight. He jumped from the dish, his suit cushioning his fall, and ran back into the base to find Reed. He found her in the control room, downloading data about the storm generator. "Walker, I found out how they plan to attack Earth," she said quickly. "They have a weapon that creates storms like the ones here to disable our technology." Walker's eyes widened. "And my suit uses that same electrical energy." Reed nodded. "Exactly. If we can modify your suit, you might be able to disrupt their weapon." They escaped the base during the chaos, making their way back to the cave where the other prisoners waited. News of their attack spread quickly through the hegemony forces on Storm 6. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. Stories about the Ghost began to spread not just among the hegemony soldiers, but among their civilian populations as well. The tales grew with each telling, how he could appear and disappear in flashes of lightning, how he fought the mighty Krell to a standstill, how no weapon could harm him. Some of the younger species in the hegemony began to question the invasion. Why fight a race that produced warriors like this? What else were humans capable of? A movement grew within the hegemony, small at first, then larger. They called themselves the Storm Walkers, named after the human ghost. They believed the invasion of Earth was wrong. On the hegemony flagship, High Commander Draz received disturbing reports. Not only had Earth been warned, but now his own people were dividing over the invasion. And there were more problems. Reports of other ghosts appearing throughout hegemony space. "Impossible," Draz said, reading the reports. "The human prisoners we captured on other planets are staging their own rebellions. They're copying the Ghost's tactics." One of his officers nodded nervously. "They're calling themselves the Ghost Battalion. They strike without warning, then vanish." Draz slammed his fist down. Enough. Move up the invasion timeline again. We attack Earth tomorrow. And send more troops to Storm 6. I want that human ghost dead. Back on Storm 6, Walker and Reed worked tirelessly to modify the Thunder Shadow suit. If they could turn it into a weapon against the storm generator, they might have a chance to save Earth. The modifications are done, Reed said finally. But there's a problem. You'll need to be inside their flagship to disrupt the weapon. And even with all the prisoners helping, we don't have a way to get you there. Walker looked up at the stormy sky. Yes, we do. But it's going to be dangerous. He explained his plan. The prisoners would create a distraction big enough to force the hegemony to send a transport ship. Walker would sneak aboard and ride it back to the fleet. That's suicide, Reed said. Maybe, Walker admitted, but Earth is worth it. That night, as another massive storm gathered, the freed humans prepared for their biggest attack yet. They would strike all remaining hegemony outposts on Storm 6 simultaneously. Walker stood at the cave entrance, watching lightning split the sky. His modified suit hummed with power, ready for its greatest test. The hegemony thinks they've seen a ghost, he said quietly. They haven't seen anything yet. Behind him, dozens of humans waited, armed with stolen alien weapons. They looked to Walker not just as a leader, but as a symbol of hope. The legend of the human ghost was about to grow even larger. The plan worked perfectly. As the freed humans attacked the remaining hegemony outposts on Storm 6, chaos erupted across the planet. The aliens called for reinforcements, sending transport ships from the main fleet. Walker and Reed watched from a ridge as one such ship landed at a burning outpost. Are you sure about this? Reed asked. Walker nodded, checking his modified Thunder Shadow suit one last time. No choice. If I don't stop that storm generator, Earth falls. Reed hesitated, then hugged him quickly. Don't die. Ghost. Walker smiled. Ghosts can't die twice. He activated his camouflage and moved toward the landing site. The aliens were rushing to load equipment and wounded soldiers onto the transport. In the confusion, no one noticed the slight shimmer in the air as Walker slipped aboard. The ship took off, breaking through Storm 6's atmosphere and heading toward the massive hegemony fleet orbiting the planet. Walker hid in a storage compartment, listening to the alien crew discuss the attacks. The storm walkers hit 6 outposts at once, said one. Impossible, replied another. There's only one human ghost. Not anymore. The prisoners have become ghosts too, and some of our own people are helping them. Walker smiled in the darkness. The resistance was growing. The transport docked with the hegemony flagship, a vessel so large it could hold an entire city. Walker slipped out while the crew unloaded. His suit's scanner picked up massive energy readings from the center of the ship, the storm generator. Moving through the flagship was harder than the outposts on Storm 6. There were more guards, more security systems, and no lightning storms to boost his suit's power. Walker had to be careful with his energy reserves. He followed the energy readings to a heavily guarded door. Too many aliens to sneak past. He needed a distraction. Walker pulled out a small device Reed had built from stolen parts. It would create a localized power surge, not as good as lightning, but enough to confuse the ship's systems. He placed it on a nearby wall panel and activated it. Lights flickered and alarms blared. The guards ran to check the disturbance, leaving the door unattended. Walker slipped through and found himself in a massive chamber. In the center stood the storm generator, a towering machine with spinning rings and crackling energy. Technicians rushed around, making final adjustments. On a platform overlooking the generator, Walker spotted High Commander Draz and a bandaged Commander Krell. Begin the activation sequence, Draz ordered. Earth falls today. Walker moved quietly around the edge of the room, looking for a way to access the generator's controls. His suit analyzed the machine, identifying key components that matched the designs Reed had discovered. Just as Walker reached a control panel, Krell suddenly stiffened, and looked directly at him. "He's here," Krell roared. "The ghost is here." Guards rushed toward Walker's position. His camouflage wasn't perfect without lightning to power it. Walker abandoned stealth and ran straight for the generator's main control unit. Energy blasts fired from all directions. One grazed Walker's leg, sending him stumbling. But he kept moving, diving behind equipment as he made his way closer to the generator. Draz watched in disbelief. How did he get aboard? "Stop him." Walker reached the main control panel. His suit connected to the system, uploading the virus Reed had designed. If it worked, the generator would overload when activated. A heavy hand grabbed Walker from behind. Krell lifted him off the ground, squeezing hard enough to crack ribs even through the suit. "I have the ghost," Krell announced triumphantly. Draz approached, his 4 eyes narrowed with hate. The famous human ghost. Not so frightening now. Walker struggled to breathe as Krell tightened his grip. The virus was only halfway uploaded. He needed more time. "You're too late," Draz said. "The generator is charged. Earth's defenses will fall in minutes." "You don't understand humans," Walker gasped. "We never fight alone." At that moment, the flagship rocked violently. Alarms blared throughout the ship. "We're under attack," shouted an officer. "Earth ships are targeting our fleet." Draz looked shocked. "Impossible. How could they know?" "I warned them," Walker said. "And I'm not the only ghost you should fear." On screens around the chamber, images appeared of hegemony ships being attacked, not just by Earth forces, but by ships from within the hegemony itself. The Storm Walkers had risen in open rebellion. In the confusion, Walker broke free from Krell's grasp. He staggered to the control panel and completed the virus upload. The storm generator began to hum loudly, its spinning rings moving faster and faster. Energy crackled uncontrollably around it. "What have you done?" demanded Draz. "Changed the weather," Walker replied. The generator's energy turned inward, feeding back into itself. The technicians tried desperately to shut it down, but the virus had locked all controls. "Evacuate the chamber," Krell ordered, recognizing the danger. Aliens rushed for the exits as the generator's energy reached critical levels. Walker's suit warned him that the explosion would be massive. Too big to escape. But then a secondary door opened, and Reed appeared with several Storm Walker aliens. "This way," she shouted. "Hurry." Walker ran to her, surprised. "How did you get here?" "I stowed away on a different transport," she explained as they rushed through corridors. "The rebellion gave us the chance to board." They reached a small shuttle bay just as the generator exploded. The flagship shuddered as energy surged through its systems, disabling weapons and engines. Walker and Reed launched in a stolen shuttle, escaping the crippled flagship. Around them, the battle raged between Earth forces, hegemony loyalists, and Storm Walker rebels. Earth had been ready for the invasion. Walker's warning had given them time to prepare defenses and form alliances with the rebellious factions within the hegemony. As their shuttle headed for Earth, Walker finally removed his Thunder Shadow helmet. His face was tired but triumphant. "It's over," Reed said. "Earth is safe." "For now," Walker replied. "But they'll remember the ghost who haunted them." 3 days later, the remnants of the hegemony fleet retreated. The Storm Walkers formed a new government, signing a peace treaty with Earth. Humans would be welcomed as equals in galactic society, not as slaves. On Earth, Walker stood before the United Earth Council, still wearing the Thunder Shadow suit that had made him a legend. "Captain Walker," said the council president, "you saved our planet." Walker shook his head. "It wasn't just me. It was every prisoner who fought back, every alien who chose to stand with humans instead of against us. Nevertheless, your actions created a symbol that inspired them all." The ghost in the Thunder Shadow. Walker looked out at the clear blue sky. Somewhere up there, Storm 6 still rumbled with perpetual lightning. Somewhere, the story of the human ghost was being told across alien worlds. "What will you do now?" asked Reed, who stood nearby. Walker smiled. There are more human prisoners out there, more battles to fight. He activated his suit's camouflage, disappearing except for a slight shimmer in the air. After all, his voice came from nowhere and everywhere. Every storm needs its ghost. And with that, the legend of the human ghost passed into history and into the nightmares of any alien who might ever again think of threatening Earth. The lights in the meeting room of the diplomatic vessel Handshake dimmed as the Vosik representative stood up. His blue skin glowed faintly in the darkness, the three eyes on his long face blinking in sequence. "We cannot agree to your terms," the alien said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into English. "The area you call Sector 17 is forbidden. We call it the Shroud. No ships go there. No mining happens there." Captain Jane Reed kept her face calm, though inside she felt her chance at a successful first contact trade deal slipping away. The Vosik Confederation had valuable metals Earth needed. This meeting had to work. "May I ask why this sector is off-limits?" she asked. "Our scans show rich deposits of rare elements there." The three Vosik representatives looked at each other. The leader spoke again. "There are guardians there, ancient warships. They protect something terrible, something that must stay locked away." Admiral Marcus Wells, sitting beside Jane, couldn't hold back his snort of disbelief. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "You'll have to forgive my colleague," Jane said quickly. "We humans are curious by nature." "Curious is good," the Vosik said. "But the Shroud is death. All who enter do not return. This is known by all space-faring races." Admiral Wells leaned forward. His gray hair and lined face usually commanded respect, but now his expression showed only disbelief. "Are you suggesting we avoid the richest mining area in this sector because of some old stories?" he asked. The lead Vosik's skin darkened with emotion. "Not stories. Truth. Our oldest records speak of the Guardians, ships made by the Lost Ones, set to watch forever. They sleep until woken by those who would break the seal." "The seal?" Jane asked. "Between here and there. Between what is and what should not be," the Vosik replied. His voice had dropped to almost a whisper. "We do not speak of it more, but we warn you, as we have warned others. The Shroud is forbidden." With that, the Vosik delegation stood as one and left the room. 3 days later, in the Grand Chamber of the United Earth Council on Earth, Admiral Wells stood before the 60 representatives of humanity's unified government. "The Vosik are hiding something," he said, his voice booming through the hall. "Sector 17 contains enough rare elements to fuel Earth's expansion for a century, and they want us to avoid it because of ghost stories." Dr. Tom Foster, the head cynoanthropologist from Oxford University, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The council had called him to speak, but Wells had been talking for 20 minutes already. "The scans from our probe show deposits worth trillions," Wells continued, pointing to the holographic display showing a star map. "Galtech is ready to begin mining operations immediately, with your approval." Council President Diane White finally raised her hand. "Thank you, Admiral. Let's hear from Dr. Foster now." Tom stood, adjusting his glasses. At 42, he was younger than most experts called before the council. His brown hair was already going gray from long nights studying alien cultures. "Council members," he began, "I've spent the last 3 days studying what we know of Vosik culture. They are not a superstitious species. They're logical, practical beings. If they fear something in this sector, we should take that seriously. Do you have evidence of these guardian warships?" a council member asked. Tom shook his head. "No direct evidence. But it's not just the Vosik. I found references in the cultural records of the Pellerin Alliance and the Myth Collective. Both mention avoiding the same region. They use different names, but the star charts match." Admiral Wells laughed. "So 3 alien races share the same fairy tales." That's hardly proof of anything. Tom frowned. The stories have common elements across species that have never contacted each other. They all mention guardian ships protecting a boundary. They all warn of terrible consequences for crossing that boundary. What kind of consequences? President White asked. The records aren't specific, just warnings that something dangerous is contained there, Tom replied. But the fact that multiple species develop the same warnings independently suggests. It suggests nothing. Wells interrupted. Except that space is full of superstition. Meanwhile, Earth needs those resources. Caltech has already invested billions in the mining equipment. The CEO of Caltech, Peter Roth, stood up from his observer seat. The Council should know that we're prepared to begin operations immediately. We've developed new extraction methods specifically for this mission. We've also created jobs for 10,000 workers. President White nodded. Thank you, Mr. Roth. She turned to Tom. Dr. Foster, do you have any concrete reason we should avoid this sector? Anything beyond these stories? Tom hesitated. I believe these myths contain truth. Many Earth myths turned out to have historical bases. The Trojan War, for example, or... Thank you, Doctor, she cut him off. The Council will now vote. Tom sat in his small university office, surrounded by ancient texts and holographic displays. It was 3 a.m., but he couldn't sleep. The Council had voted 42-18 to approve the mining operation. Earth Fleet's 7th Division would escort Caltech ships to Sector 17 in 1 month. His computer beeped. A new message from an old colleague on Proxima Centauri. Tom, found something you might want to see. Ancient myth cave paintings, just discovered. They show something guarding a tear in space. Dating puts them at over 40,000 years old. Sending the images now. Tom opened the attached files. His tired eyes widened as the images appeared. Crude but clear drawings showed tall, thin figures bowing before a massive shape, unmistakably a spacecraft of some kind. Behind it was a jagged line, like a crack, with dark tendrils reaching through. More images loaded. Different planets, different species, similar drawings, all showing the same things. Ships standing guard before a break in reality. Tom's hands shook as he sent an urgent message to Captain Reed, who was preparing to join the expedition. Jane, I found something. Multiple species, same morning. This isn't superstition. Something is out there, and we're about to wake it up. He attached the images and hit send. Then he made another decision. He had 3 weeks of leave saved up. The Intrepid, Earth's newest battleship, would lead the expedition to the Shroud. Tom needed to be on that ship, because if the myths were true, humanity was about to make a terrible mistake. The massive Earth battleship Intrepid cut through the darkness of space, its engines glowing blue against the black. Behind it followed 12 smaller ships, mining vessels, science ships, and military escorts. They formed Earth's first expedition to the area known as the Shroud. Captain Alex Morgan stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, watching the stars on the main screen. At 45, he had been in space for 20 years, but he had never seen a region quite like this. The stars ahead seemed dimmer somehow, as if covered by a thin cloth. How long until we enter the Shroud? He asked. His first officer, Jack Wilson, checked the instruments. About 30 minutes, sir. Alex nodded. And Dr. Foster, is he ready with his team? Yes, sir. They're in Science Lab 1, monitoring everything. Alex wasn't happy having a civilian scientist join this mission at the last minute, but Admiral Wells had approved it, saying that having an expert on alien cultures might be useful if they encountered anything strange. Sir, called out Lisa Green, the communications officer, I'm getting some odd readings. Our signals to Earth are experiencing delays. How bad? About 3 seconds longer than they should be. And there's some kind of echo effect I can't explain. Alex frowned. They weren't even in the Shroud yet. Keep monitoring it. In Science Lab 1, Dr. Tom Foster watched his screens with growing concern. Since joining the mission 3 days ago, he had set up equipment to detect any unusual patterns. Now, as they approached the shroud, his instruments were picking up strange energy readings. "Dr. Foster," a young voice interrupted his thoughts. Tom turned to see Riley Parker, a junior engineer who had been assigned to help his team. She was barely 25, with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. "What is it, Riley?" She held up her tablet. "I was checking the ship's systems as you asked. There's something weird happening in the computer networks. Random symbols are appearing and disappearing in the code." Tom took the tablet and studied it. The symbols weren't from any Earth language, but they looked familiar. "I've seen these before," he said quietly, "in the myth cave paintings." Riley's eyes widened. "The alien warnings you told me about. But how could ancient symbols be appearing in our computers?" "I don't know, but we need to tell the captain." Before they could leave, the ship's lights flickered, and a low hum filled the air. "We've entered the shroud," Tom said. On the bridge, Captain Morgan watched as the stars outside changed. The view wasn't what he expected. Instead of darkness, the shroud was filled with a faint purple glow that seemed to shift and move like fog. "All ships report successful entry," Jack said, "but 3 of them are reporting equipment problems. The mining vessel Digger has lost long-range communications." "Sir," Lisa called out, "I'm getting reports from multiple crew members. They're saying they're having strange dreams while awake. Visions of some kind." Alex stood up from his chair. "Visions? What kind of visions?" "They describe seeing a vast emptiness, with something moving inside it, and giant ships standing guard." She looked up, her face pale. "Sir, I've seen them too. Just flashes, but they feel real." The door to the bridge opened, and Dr. Foster rushed in with Riley Parker. "Captain, we need to talk," Tom said urgently. "Something is affecting the ship's systems. Ancient symbols are appearing in our computers." Alex was about to respond when the science officer called out, "Captain, I'm detecting something amazing. The asteroid field ahead. The mineral readings are off the charts. I've never seen concentrations like this before." All eyes turned to the main screen. The purple haze had cleared enough to reveal a massive asteroid field. Even from this distance, they could see the asteroids glittering with metallic veins. "It's exactly what Galtech was hoping for," Jack whispered. "There's enough there to make this mission worth 10 times its cost." Alex looked at Dr. Foster. "What do you think? Those symbols in our computers, are they some kind of warning?" Tom nodded. "I believe so. But I also think they're trying to communicate something more complex. I need time to study them." "Time is money, Doctor," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see William Stone, the Galtech representative, stepping onto the bridge. "We came here to mine, not to study ghost stories." Alex frowned. "Mr. Stone, you're not authorized to be on the bridge during operations." Stone smiled coldly. "Perhaps you should check your orders again, Captain. Galtech has been given priority on this mission. Admiral Wells was very clear about that." Alex checked his tablet and saw a new message from Admiral Wells. The orders were clear. Mining operations were to begin immediately upon finding suitable deposits. "Fine," Alex said, "but we proceed with caution. Jack, choose the smallest asteroid with good mineral readings. We'll start there." 6 hours later, the mining ship Digger had positioned itself next to a medium-sized asteroid. Drilling equipment extended from the ship, biting into the rock. The first samples were already being processed. Riley Parker stood in engineering, watching the power readings from the mining operation. Something wasn't right. The equipment was drawing more power than it should. "Chief," she called to her boss, "look at these readings." Chief Engineer Dave Miller came over. "That can't be right. It's like the asteroid is resisting somehow." A sudden alarm blared. The ship shuddered. "All crew to emergency stations," came Captain Morgan's voice over the speakers. We're detecting unusual energy readings from the largest asteroid in the field. All mining operations are suspended. Riley rushed to a viewport and looked out at the massive asteroid at the center of the field. It was at least 20 miles across, dwarfing all the others. As she watched, a crack appeared on its surface, glowing with blue light. "That's not natural," Dave said, standing beside her. The crack spread, forming a pattern across the asteroid's surface. It wasn't random. It was geometric, purposeful. Riley's tablet beeped. On the screen, the strange symbols appeared again. But this time they were changing, forming new patterns. "It's a message," she whispered. "Whatever's in that asteroid is waking up." On the bridge, Captain Morgan watched in stunned silence as the surface of the giant asteroid split open like a hatching egg. Inside was not rock, but metal, a massive structure that had been hidden beneath the surface. "Sir," Jack said, his voice shaking. "That's a ship bigger than anything humanity has ever built." Dr. Foster stepped forward, his face pale. "Captain, we need to leave. Now." That's one of the Guardian vessels from the myths. But it was too late. The enormous ship was already rising from its asteroid shell, ancient systems coming to life after countless years of sleep. And as it rose, a message beamed out to every ship in the human fleet, in perfect, flawless English. "You were warned. The boundary must not be crossed. Cease operations, or face judgment." Silence filled the bridge of the Intrepid as the crew stared at the massive ship rising from the asteroid. It was unlike anything humans had ever built or seen. Its surface gleamed with a metal that seemed to shift colors as it moved, from deep blue to purple to silver. There were no visible windows, thrusters, or weapons, just smooth, flowing lines that hurt the eyes if you looked at them too long. "It's beautiful," someone whispered. Captain Alex Morgan snapped out of his shock. "All ships, pull back to safe distance. No hostile actions." He turned to Communications Officer Lisa. "Send a message back. Tell them we mean no harm and didn't understand the warning." Before Lisa could send the message, William Stone stepped forward. "Captain, I must remind you that Earth needs these resources. We can't just run away at the first sign of trouble." Dr. Tom Foster, who had been studying the giant ship on his tablet, looked up with wide eyes. "That's not just any ship. It matches the descriptions from the ancient texts perfectly. It's one of the Guardian vessels." "What exactly is it guarding, Doctor?" Alex asked. "The texts call it the boundary, some kind of barrier between dimensions or realities. The details are vague, but all the stories agree. Breaking the boundary lets something terrible through." The ship's communication system crackled, and Admiral Wells' voice came through from Earth Command. His image appeared on the main screen, looking stern and determined. "Captain Morgan, we're seeing the situation. That alien vessel represents technology beyond anything humanity has encountered. Your new orders are to disable and capture it if possible." Alex stared at the screen in disbelief. "Admiral, that ship is at least 5 miles long. It just woke up after who knows how many thousands of years. And it's warning us away for a reason." "Those are your orders, Captain," Wells said firmly. "That ship is sitting on top of resources Earth needs, and its technology could advance humanity by centuries." The screen went dark as the connection cut off. Alex looked around at his crew, then at Dr. Foster. "What do you think will happen if we attack it?" Tom shook his head. "Nothing good." "Sir," Jack Wilson called out, "the mining ships are pulling back, but Galtex's main vessel resource is moving forward. They're powering up drilling equipment." On the screen, they could see the smaller ship approaching the asteroid field again, apparently ignoring the Guardian's warning. "Stone." Alex turned to the Galtech representative. "Order your ship to stand down." William Stone smiled coldly. "I'm afraid they have their orders directly from Galtech headquarters. The Admiral supports our position." Before Alex could respond, the Guardian vessel moved. It was impossibly fast for something so large. One moment it was floating above the asteroid, and the next it was directly in front of the resource. No flash of engines, no visible movement. It simply was there. A beam of soft blue light extended from the Guardian to the resource. The mining ship froze in space, all its lights flickering and then going out. What did it do? Alex demanded. The science officer checked the readings. The resource still has life support, but all other systems are offline. It's like it just turned them off. That's impossible, Stone whispered, his confidence cracking. No technology can do that. Sir, Lisa called out, her voice shaking. We're receiving a message from the Guardian. Audio and visual. Put it on screen, Alex ordered. The main screen flickered, and an image appeared. It wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of an alien being, they saw what looked like a human face, but not quite. The features were too perfect, too symmetrical. The eyes were slightly larger, the skin glowing faintly from within. When it spoke, its mouth movements matched the words perfectly. Your kind was always impatient, the being said, its voice deep and musical. This is why the boundary must be protected. You do not understand what you risk. Alex stepped forward. Who are you? What is this boundary you're protecting? I am Guardian Shield 7, autonomous sentinel of the Dimensional Seal. I was created by those you would call the precursors to prevent the crossing of realities. Dr. Foster moved closer to the screen, his academic curiosity overcoming his fear. The precursors. The Vosik called them the Lost Ones. Yes, the Guardian replied. They were lost because they did not heed their own warnings. I remained to prevent others from making the same mistake. Riley Parker had quietly entered the bridge during this exchange. She stepped forward now, holding her tablet. The symbols in our computers, they're from the precursors, aren't they? The Guardian's gaze shifted to her. Yes. The warning symbols activate in any technology that enters the shroud. They are designed to prevent what you are attempting. William Stone had been listening with growing impatience. This is ridiculous. Captain, we need those resources. Earth Command has ordered us to be quiet, Mr. Stone, Alex interrupted. He turned back to the screen. Guardian, we didn't understand the warning. But now that we do, we'll respect the boundary. We'll leave this area. It is too late, the Guardian said. Your mining has already begun to weaken the seal. I must repair it. And you have called others to this place. Alex frowned. What do you mean? Jack Wilson looked up from his console. Sir, we're detecting multiple ships entering the shroud. It's the Second Fleet. Admiral Wells must have sent them as backup. On a secondary screen, they could see Earth vessels appearing at the edge of the shroud. Newer, more heavily armed battleships led by the Conqueror, Earth's most powerful warship. Captain Morgan, came Admiral Wells' voice over the communication system. Stand down. The new fleet will handle this alien vessel. The Guardian turned its gaze from the screen, looking towards the approaching fleet. They bring weapons designed to pierce my shields. They have studied the warning symbols and created countermeasures. This is unexpected. For the first time, the perfect face showed what looked like concern. Dr. Foster stepped closer to Alex. Captain, I think the Guardian is actually trying to protect us. If the Admiral attacks and somehow damages it. Alex nodded and opened a channel to the approaching fleet. Admiral Wells, I strongly advise against hostile action. The Guardian is protecting something called the Dimensional Seal. Damaging it could have serious consequences. Your concerns are noted, Captain, Wells replied coldly. But this decision has been made at the highest levels. That alien ship is now Earth property. The lead ship of the new fleet, the Conqueror, moved forward, its weapons powering up. Green energy gathered at the tips of its main guns. Experimental weapons developed in secret by Earth's military. The Guardian's expression changed to something like sadness. Then I must show you why the boundary exists. Perhaps then you will understand. Its massive ship turned towards the asteroid field. A section of its smooth hull opened, revealing what looked like a massive crystal. The crystal began to glow with increasing brightness, sending a beam of light into the space between the asteroids. The fabric of space itself seemed to tear open, creating a window into something else, something that made everyone who saw it feel sick with fear. Beyond the tear was emptiness, but an emptiness that seemed alive somehow. And in that living void, something moved, something vast and hungry, reaching tentacle-like shadows towards the opening. The Guardian closed the tear quickly, but not before one thin tendril of darkness had slipped through. It writhed in space for a moment before the Guardian's ship fired a pulse of energy that made it dissolve into nothing. "That," said the Guardian, "is what waits beyond. That is the hunger. And it has sensed you now." Complete silence filled the bridge of the Intrepid. Every crew member stared at the screen where they had just seen something impossible, a tear in reality itself, and something dark and hungry reaching through before the Guardian sealed it away. Admiral Wells' voice broke the silence. "Captain Morgan, what just happened?" "Our sensors detected some kind of spatial anomaly." Alex swallowed hard before answering. "Admiral, the Guardian showed us what it's protecting us from. There's something on the other side of what it calls the boundary. Something dangerous. More alien tricks," Wells dismissed. "They're trying to scare us away from the resources." Dr. Tom Foster stepped forward. "Admiral, with all respect, that was no trick. Every myth, every warning across a dozen alien cultures, they were all trying to tell us about this. If the Guardian is damaged and can't protect the boundary, the hunger comes through," finished Riley Parker. She had been quiet, working on her tablet. "Sir, I've been analyzing the symbols that appeared in our systems. They're not just warnings. They're memories." "Memories?" asked Captain Morgan. Riley nodded. "I think when we sleep, when we dream here in the shroud, we're not just having nightmares. We're accessing memories somehow stored in this region of space. Memories from the precursors." The Guardian's face appeared on the screen again. "The young one is correct. My creators left memory imprints within the shroud, activated by compatible neural patterns. They hoped that advanced species would understand the warnings before proceeding." "And the resources?" William Stone asked, his voice now lacking its earlier confidence. "The rare minerals in these asteroids. They are waste products," the Guardian replied, "created by my maintenance of the boundary. The energy exchange creates these elements as a byproduct. They are not meant to be harvested. They help stabilize this region." On the secondary screen, they could see the Conqueror and the Second Fleet continuing to advance, weapons still powered up. "Admiral Wells," Alex said urgently, "you need to stand down. We've seen what's at stake here." Wells' face appeared, looking determined. "Captain, I have direct orders from Earth Council. That alien vessel must be secured. Its technology is too valuable to ignore. Your weapons cannot destroy me," the Guardian said, now addressing Wells directly, "but they can damage my ability to maintain the boundary. Is your desire for advancement worth risking everything?" "We'll take that chance," Wells replied coldly. "All ships, prepare to fire on my mark." Captain Morgan looked at his bridge crew, then made a decision. "Helm, position the Intrepid between the Guardian and the Second Fleet." Jack Wilson stared at him. "Sir, that's directly against orders." "I know, but I won't let us start an interdimensional disaster because of greed." Alex opened a channel to all Earth ships. "This is Captain Morgan. I have seen direct evidence that the Guardian is protecting us from a genuine threat. I am placing the Intrepid in defensive position. I urge all ships to stand down." 3 of the smaller vessels from Alex's fleet moved to join the Intrepid. The others remained in place, unsure what to do. "Morgan, this is mutiny," Wells warned. "Move your ship immediately." "I can't do that, Admiral. Not after what we've seen." The Guardian watched this exchange, then spoke again. "I see that some among you understand. Perhaps there is hope." Its ship moved forward, positioning itself in front of the Intrepid. "Stand aside, Captain. I will not let your ship be damaged for protecting me." Before Alex could respond, the Conqueror fired. A brilliant green beam shot toward the Guardian vessel. The beam struck an invisible barrier around the Guardian, creating a shower of multicolored energy. The barrier held, but the Guardian's ship trembled slightly. "Interesting," the Guardian said. "Your weapons are more advanced than expected for your development stage. You have been artificially accelerated." The Conqueror fired again, joined by 2 other battleships. This time, the Guardian's shield flickered visibly. "Stop," Dr. Foster shouted, though only those on the Intrepid could hear him. "You're damaging the boundary." Around them, space itself seemed to waver. Small tears appeared and disappeared at random points throughout the shroud. Through each tear, for just a moment, they could see darkness moving. The Guardian's ship began to glow, energy building around it. "I have avoided harming your vessels, but I cannot allow this to continue." A pulse of blue energy spread outward from the Guardian vessel. As it passed over each human ship, their lights flickered and went out. One by one, the attacking vessels went dark, floating powerless in space. Only the Intrepid remained untouched. "What did you do to them?" Alex asked. "I have temporarily disabled their power systems," the Guardian replied. "Life support remains functional. They are in no danger." Admiral Wells' voice came through on emergency channels, angry but also scared. "What have you done? Restore power immediately." "I cannot," the Guardian said. "Not until the boundary is secured again. Your weapons have caused damage that must be repaired." Riley Parker, who had been working frantically at a console, looked up with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm detecting energy fluctuations throughout the shroud. The boundary is becoming unstable." The Guardian's face showed concern. "The damage is worse than I expected. I must focus on repairs now." It looked directly at Captain Morgan. "You have a choice to make, Captain. Will you help me, or will you continue to follow those who would risk everything?" Alex didn't hesitate. "What do you need us to do?" "The small tears must be sealed before they grow. My ship can do this, but I need time. You must protect me from any further attacks." "The Admiral won't stop," Jack Wilson said quietly. "Once his ships have power, he'll attack again." "Then we need to convince him," Alex said. He turned to Dr. Foster. "Doctor, you said these symbols are memories. Is there a way to share them more directly? To show the Admiral what we've seen?" Tom thought for a moment. "Riley said our dreams here are accessing those memories. Maybe if we could amplify that connection somehow." The Guardian spoke. "It is possible. My creators designed the memory imprints to be received by compatible minds. I can strengthen the connection, but it must be voluntary." "Will it work through space? Can you reach the Admiral's ship?" Alex asked. "Yes, but it will divert energy from my repairs." Alex looked around at his crew. "It's worth the risk. We need to make them understand." The Guardian nodded. "Very well. I will create a shared memory space. Those who wish to see the truth may enter it." Its ship began to pulse with a soft, golden light. On the bridge of the Intrepid, everyone felt a gentle tug at the edge of their minds, like the beginning of a dream. "It's starting," Riley whispered. "I can feel it." The shared memory began to form. It showed a civilization of beings similar to humans, but more advanced. They had discovered the boundary between dimensions, and in their curiosity, had weakened it. The memory showed the hunger breaking through, consuming entire worlds. It showed the desperate creation of the Guardian vessels as a last defense, and the sacrifice of the precursors to power the boundary seal. The final memory was the clearest, a precursor leader looking directly at them, speaking words that everyone somehow understood. "If you see this, then our guardians still stand. Learn from our mistake. The hunger never stops, it never sleeps, and now it knows you exist." As the memory faded, Captain Morgan looked around his bridge. Every crew member's face showed the same mix of awe and terror. "Did the Admiral see it?" he asked. Lisa checked her communications panel. "Sir, I'm getting calls from every ship in both fleets. They all experienced the memory." A new voice came through the speakers. Admiral Wells, but changed. His tone was subdued, shaken. "Captain Morgan, we had no idea. The Council never would have approved this mission if we'd known. Now you understand why the Guardians exist." The ship responded. "Now you know what must be protected." Suddenly, alarms blared across the Intrepid. "Captain," Riley called out, "the Boundary. It's failing faster than the Guardian can repair it." The Guardian's ship pulsed with energy as it worked to repair the damaged Boundary. Around it, space itself seemed to be tearing, small rips appearing and disappearing like blinking eyes. Through each tear, darkness moved and reached. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Alex Morgan watched the largest tear growing despite the Guardian's efforts. It was now the size of a small moon and still expanding. "It's not working," Dr. Tom Foster said quietly. "The Guardian can't seal it fast enough." The Guardian's face appeared on their screen again, its perfect features now showing signs of strain. "The damage is too extensive. My systems are operating beyond capacity, but the Boundary continues to fail." Admiral Wells, speaking from his powerless ship, asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens if the Boundary fails completely? "The hunger will enter your reality," the Guardian replied simply. "It will consume all energy, all matter, all life, as it did in 7 other realities before my creators managed to contain it." Riley Parker had been working frantically at her console. She looked up suddenly. "What if we help? The Guardian said these minerals and the asteroids help stabilize the region. What if we use them somehow?" Tom's eyes widened. "Yes, the mining ships. They have equipment to process those minerals." Alex turned to the Guardian. "Is it possible? Could our ships help stabilize the Boundary using the asteroid materials?" The Guardian was silent for a moment, as if calculating. "It might work. The elements in the asteroids do resonate with the Boundary's frequency, but your technology is primitive compared to my creators." "But not completely incompatible," Riley insisted. "Our ships were able to mine the asteroids. Maybe with your guidance, we could reconfigure the mining equipment to help strengthen the Boundary instead." The Guardian considered this. "There is one possibility. My creators designed me with emergency protocols. I can temporarily extend my systems through compatible technology. If your ships were to position themselves around the primary breach and channel the refined minerals through your energy systems, we'd create a supporting network," Alex finished. "We could help hold the Boundary while you repair it." "Precisely," the Guardian confirmed. "But it would require all your ships working together, and the reconfiguration would place enormous strain on your systems. Some may not survive the process." Alex opened a channel to all ships. "You all heard that. We need volunteers to position their ships around the breach to help seal it. I won't order anyone to do this." There was a moment of silence. Then Admiral Wells spoke. "The Conqueror will take point position as soon as you restore our power." One by one, captains from every ship in both fleets volunteered. "It seems humanity can learn quickly when needed," the Guardian observed. With a pulse of energy, power was restored to all the human ships. The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. Under Riley's and the Guardian's guidance, the mining ships reconfigured their processing equipment to channel the special minerals. The military vessels, including the Conqueror and Intrepid, positioned themselves in a precise formation around the largest breach. The Guardian sent detailed instructions to each ship. Energy conduits were connected between vessels, creating a web that surrounded the tear in reality. Inside the tear, the hunger seemed to be watching them, dark tendrils occasionally reaching out only to be pushed back by the Guardian's energy. "All ships report ready," Jack Wilson announced from his station. Alex took a deep breath. "Begin the sequence." The mining vessels activated their modified systems. They began to process the asteroid materials, channeling the resulting energy through the military ships. The Intrepid shuddered as power beyond its design specifications flowed through its systems. Hull temperature rising, Jack reported. Power conduits at 180% capacity and climbing. Hold it together, Alex murmured, to his ship as much as to his crew. The Guardian's vessel moved to the center of the formation, directly in front of the breach. It began to pulse with blinding light as it drew power from the human network. It's working, Riley called out. The breach is shrinking. On the screen, they could see the tear in reality slowly closing. But the strain on the ships was becoming critical. Warning lights flashed across every console. We're losing the miner too, Lisa reported. Their systems are overloading. The Conqueror's main reactor is approaching critical, another officer added. Admiral Wells' voice came through, calm despite the danger. We'll hold as long as we can, Captain Morgan. The Guardian spoke, its voice now echoing strangely. I am channeling all available power to seal the boundary. But there is an irregularity in the pattern. The breach has adapted. Tom Foster looked up from his readings. Adapted? You mean the hunger is fighting back? Yes, it is. Intelligent, in its way. It remembers the precursors. And now it has sensed you. The Guardian's voice became urgent. There is something I did not tell you. Something I was programmed to reveal only in the most dire circumstances. Tell us now, Alex urged. The precursors did not merely create me. Before their civilization fell, they seeded life throughout this galaxy. Life that carried a small part of their essence, their pattern. Tom gasped as understanding dawned. You're saying? Yes, humans are descendants of the precursors, genetically modified to evolve in this world. This is why you develop so quickly compared to other species. This is why the memory imprints work so strongly with your minds. A stunned silence fell across the bridge. That's why you look almost human, Riley whispered. You were made in their image. And in yours, the Guardian confirmed. This connection gives us an advantage. Together, we might succeed where the precursors alone failed. The Guardian's ship began to change shape, parts of it extending outward like branches of a tree. These extensions reached toward the human ships, connecting to them directly. What are you doing? Admiral Wells demanded. Creating a true network. Your ships alone cannot channel enough power, but if I extend my systems through your vessels, using your connection to the precursors. The moment the connections were complete, everyone on every ship felt a strange sensation, as if their minds were suddenly part of something larger. Through this connection, they could sense the boundary, could feel the hunger pressing against it like a vast weight. And together, they pushed back. The Guardian guided them, showing each ship how to focus their energy. The power drain was enormous. Systems failed across the fleet, but still they held. The breach began to close more rapidly now. The hunger's tendrils writhed and fought, but they were being pushed back through the shrinking tear. With a final surge of power that caused half the remaining systems on the Intrepid to blow out, the breach sealed with a silent flash of light. The Guardian's ship returned to its original form, the connections to the human vessels withdrawing. It is done. The boundary is restored. Across the human fleet, crews cheered despite their exhaustion. They had faced an impossible threat and survived. 1 month later, Captain Jane Reed stood before the United Earth Council. The chamber was packed with representatives not just from Earth, but from a dozen alien species, including the Vosic. The Guardian has agreed to a treaty, she announced. The Shroud will be declared a protected zone, jointly monitored by all spacefaring races, and humanity has been asked to take a special role. What role is that? President White asked. As descendants of the precursors, we have a unique connection to the Guardian technology. The Guardian has asked for human volunteers to be trained as what it calls boundary wardens, people who will work with the Guardian to maintain the seals. Dr. Tom Foster stepped forward. Already, hundreds of people have volunteered. The Guardian is teaching us about our heritage, about the technology the precursors left behind. Jane nodded to the Vosik representatives. "We owe you an apology. You warned us, and we didn't listen." The lead Vosik stood. "You were not the first to ignore warnings, and may not be the last. But you are the first to help repair the damage you caused, and the first to be recognized by the Guardian as kin to the Makers." As the council meeting continued, Captain Alex Morgan stood on the observation deck of the newly repaired Intrepid, looking out at Earth below. Riley Parker joined him, now wearing the silver uniform of the Boundary Wardens. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, "going into the shroud despite the warnings?" Alex considered this. "We made a mistake, a bad one. But we also found a truth that had been waiting for us for thousands of years." He looked at her. "The Guardian told me something before we left. It said that the precursors believed their descendants would someday return and take up their mantle, not just as protectors of the boundary, but as guardians of all life in this galaxy." Riley smiled. "That's a big responsibility." "Yes," Alex agreed, watching as a Guardian vessel, smaller than the original but just as beautiful, glided past the station in orbit. "But for the first time, I think we might be ready for it."